Alrighty, today we're going to take a look at what American Heart Association is going to call a polymorphic ventricular tachycardia or a torsade de pointe. And really what this is a ventricular tachycardia that happens to come from multiple locations. A lot of people love to look for one of these because it has a wonderful little spindling effect. And that's quite all right. You can take a look at these things, and, I will tell you that I have not seen them very frequently. I have found them in my own paramedic clinical experience, but when it comes to being one of the most frequent things that I have experienced, it does not rate up there. But let's take a look at this. So our first question, as always, is this a readable strip? And when we take a look at this EKG, our first answer is why? Yes, it is a readable strip. I can identify some waves in here, and I also see that there's not a lot of artifact. So when I look in here to my next question, are there P waves that are present? Well, I can't be sure that there's not a P wave, but this thing here looks like a little weird. And then I come back in here, and it looks like it might appear here every once in a while, and I think I saw it right here too. Okay, so are those P waves? The problem with this is that they could be what I'll refer to as breakthrough P waves, but they're not consistent, and therefore you need two of them in a row to really identify whether or not that is a P wave. So in this case, we're saying that they are absent, right? So the P waves here are absent. We can't say whether or not those that I circled were truly P waves. So we know that there's no P waves, so we're going to cross out all of these areas. And now we get into looking to see whether or not we have a QRS. Well, the QRS we do have. QRSs are here. Now, QRSs, when we take a look at this, are they regular or irregular? So this is something that you probably need your calipers for, right? So we're going to start tracking our QRSs, okay? So it doesn't matter where you're measuring this from, as long as it's the same one on each beat. So for this one, I'm going to go down here. And if I start measuring this, so far it appears to be regular. And then all of a sudden, what happens when I start getting in here? I can't tell what happens, but it almost appears that it may have become irregular. So we'll find out when we get here. Yeah, it starts to become irregular. So usually what you find with a polymorphic ventricular tachycardia is that it is irregular. Now, one of the things that you can take a look at, and you just notice this, hopefully you notice this, is that the irregularity occurs okay when you're in before it spindles. Once it spindles, it's kind of tough to tell because you lose it. So this is why we're going to call it something that actually appears to be irregular. Our QRS duration, when we come back in here and we measure our QRS duration, and again in this area, I'm going to measure this because it looks like it's more negative in this area. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to see. And it is probably almost about 5 blocks. So this means that it is greater than 0.12, which tells us that it is coming out of the ventricles. And our rate here, really tough to tell, other than the fact that since this is all irregular, we'd go 1, 2, 3. Kind of tough to tell whether or not, and we'll go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, maybe a rate of somewhere close to 200. I'm counting 23 in here, but I can't always be sure that I'm counting everyone in here as a QRS. So what we know is that the ventricular rate in this case is going to be over 150. So when we look at a torsade, we're looking at a problem here in that it is irregular, but there is a pattern to it. Okay, so there's a pattern to irregularity. So what I mean by a pattern to the irregularity is if you take a look here, and then you take a look at these, and then this, and then it comes back into this aspect. What you're seeing is the spindling. Okay, so this is where the spindling is occurring. But this spindling part right here, this is the least amount that you're going to see. So if you go back and take a look at the intro to pathophysiology, or physiology, I should say, of the heart rhythms, you will find that what we're doing is that here is a lead, okay, and that electrode or that lead is heading, anything that is heading towards that electrode is going to be turning into a positive, right? It's a positive thing that they're coming in. Anything that is going away from the lead, everything is moving away, becomes a negative. Therefore, we see that a QRS, or whatever that lead is going to be, goes in a downward pattern or a negative deflection. So when I take a look at something like this, I can see that this here appears to be more positive in these aspects. And then when I get up here, it looks like it's positive up here. So this is where things have actually switched over. And it is in this area that is not going to be something very visible for me. So when I get this is a torsade de pointe, or a polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. If you find this in a patient, most likely they do not have a pulse. They require defibrillation, and they would also then need to, most likely, need to get treated with magnesium sulfate. This is also something that you will hear people say that they can go into a torsade if they have a prolonged QT interval. Again, most of the time that people experience this, they could have a pulse, but majority of the time these folks do not have a pulse. So there you go. Hopefully a little torsade de pointe in your day helped you out. See you soon.